We begin with Exodus chapter 22. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, guide us as we look at your sense of justice and rule, and help us to really guide and rule our lives with the same equanimity and equality. Amen. Open up your Bibles, if you will, to Exodus 22, and we look at verses 1 through 4. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills or sells it, he shall repay 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief is found breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. But if the sun is risen on him, there shall be blood guilt for him. He shall surely pay. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the stolen beast is found alive in his possession, whether it is an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he shall pay double. In these verses, we're given rules of law regarding the theft of personal property and rules of restitution. If someone is caught stealing, they have to repay, as we saw in the first verse, 5 oxen for an ox, 4 sheep for a sheep. Verse 2 brings up another situation. What about in the middle of the night? You wake up and a thief has broken into your house and you kill him. Well, there will be no blood guilt if you killed him in the dark, because you didn't know if someone was breaking into your house to steal or to kill you. You could argue that you thought you were doing it in self-defense, and so you're not guilty. Verse 3, though, says if the sun is risen, if it's daylight hours and someone comes into your house and you kill him, then you are guilty. In broad daylight, you can see what's going on. You're awake. You're not fumbling around in the dark. You know this person isn't coming to kill you. They got caught stealing. Then you need to go through the court system, and he shall surely pay. If he has nothing, this thief, this would-be robber, shall be sold for his theft. Here's a case of that social net, slavery. 6 years they will have to serve someone that's willing to pay the debt. If the stolen beast is found alive and in his possession, it has to be paid back double. So again, there's this reach for justice. Verses 5 through 9, we see more principles of restitution. Verse 5, if a man causes a field or vineyard to be grazed over, or lets his beast loose and it feeds in another man's field, he shall make restitution from the beast in his own field and in his own vineyard. If fire breaks out and catches in thorns so that the stacked grain or the standing grain or the field is consumed, he who started the fire shall make full restitution. And in doing this, we see that perhaps this kind of drifts into the area of vandalism or certainly negligence. And for this reason, there really needs to be restitution. This was their form of insurance back then. And it certainly was a call for you to practice good stewardship on your end of it. You didn't want your sheep drifting over into someone else's meadow. You did not want to be careless and cause a fire that would hurt someone else, because you're going to have to pay for it. We're picking up with verse 7. If a man gives to his neighbor money or goods to keep safe, and it is stolen from the man's house, then if the thief is found, he shall pay double. If the thief is not found, the owner of the house shall come near to God to show whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. That phrase, shall come near to God, we really should translate as go to court, because God appoints the judges. God is in control of our authorities. So you go God's route. You take it to court. Verse 9, for every breach of trust, whether it is for an ox, for a donkey, for a sheep, for a cloak, or for any kind of lost thing, of which one says, this is it. The case of both parties, we're in a court, so suddenly we're hearing this legal language. Both parties shall come before God. The one whom God condemns shall pay double to his neighbor. It's worth noting that the Hebrew word here is Elohim. It's translated gods. like with a small g. But here the concept gets mixed up, because you could say the small g gods, the representatives, the authorities of the one true God, are the court judges, but they are working for God, capital G. So justice always filters back up to God himself. Exodus 22, verses 10 through 13. If a man gives to his neighbor a donkey or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep safe, and it dies or is injured or is driven away, without anyone seeing it, an oath by the Lord shall be between them both, to see whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. The owner shall accept the oath, and he shall not make restitution. In other words, if you ask a neighbor to take care of your livestock and it goes missing, you should accept him, swearing on an oath, kind of like what we do in a court of law. Again, we see this image of the courtroom coming in front of us. Do you solemnly swear, so help you God? And you should accept that if the man has any kind of reputation. But, verse 12, and I circled the word but, if it is stolen from him, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it is torn by beasts, let him bring it as evidence. He shall not make restitution for what has been torn. In other words, you're going on a 3-day vacation. You ask your neighbor to take care of your livestock. One of your sheep goes missing. If your neighbor says, I don't know what happened. There were 20 sheep and now there's 19. I certainly didn't steal them. Take his word for it. If you can't do that, go to court and draw near to God. Do it the right way. If that neighbor later on says, I went out and I found your sheep, obviously it was attacked by wolves, look at the claw marks, then he was negligent. He should have been taking care of your property and needs to make restitution. Verses 14 through 17. If a man borrows anything of his neighbor, and it is injured or dies, the owner not being with it, he shall make full restitution. Again, negligence is no excuse. If the owner was with it, he shall not make restitution. If it was hired, it came for its hiring fee. Once again, we sort of see the same concept. If someone else takes responsibility for your property, they have to fulfill that responsibility. But now we're making a break because we're changing subjects to moral and ceremonial laws, having to do with those brides that certainly need to have their own future, their own well-being taken care of. And we so often are fond of referring to the fact that women had no rights in biblical times. They did. They were protected, but it was very different from our society. Verses 16 and 17. If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall give the bride price for her and make her his wife. In other words, a shotgun wedding. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the bride price for virgins. A bride price was the amount of money that was determined should be given in exchange for a man's daughter who he was giving up as a bride. The idea being that he is losing someone of value in his family. It also was a way of reassuring the father who is giving his daughter up that this young fellow, he can provide for my daughter. The bride price was proof that this fellow could be resourceful and had some means. Sometimes, though, the father would refuse in the case of a shotgun wedding. This guy spoiled my daughter's virtue. He deflowered her. He should marry her and make her an honest woman, to use an old-fashioned term. But sometimes the father looked at the man and said, I don't want my daughter spending the rest of her life with him. Or she might say, no way am I going to hook up with that guy for the next 50 years of my life. In that case, the offending young man still has to pay the bride price. He took the liberties with her already. And he'll just be out. He's paying a bride price and he's not getting a bride for it. Maybe he should be more careful and think twice before he asks another girl out on a date. From there, we go into laws that should be self-evident, but perhaps the punishments are not. Verse 18, you shall not permit a sorceress to live. Sorcery was practiced in the ancient world, and the reason why a sorceress must not live is not simply because God doesn't like sorcery. That was a practice that was often very closely associated with medical arts, or we might say drug abuse. What they called a sorceress would have some points of comparison with a modern day drug pusher. They're not the same thing, but they have a lot of points in common. And there's no use for a person like that. They're not allowed to live. And 19, whoever lies with an animal shall be put to death. Bestiality was practiced in the ancient world, not among the Israelites. And verse 20, whoever sacrifices to any god other than the Lord alone shall be devoted to destruction. They shall become a sacrifice to God. God simply will not share his throne with any false gods. Verses 21 through 27. Now we switch to laws that have to do with our responsibility to show compassion to the weak and to the poor. Verse 21. You shall not wrong a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. God has his own sense and way of equalizing things. You take advantage of the fatherless, I'll see to it that your children become among the fatherless. So God is watching out for them. And for this reason, you'd better be very careful. You got to look out for others, especially those who are defenseless. And in these verses, we've seen referred to foreigners, widows, orphans, the poor. They must be treated with humanity. Let's pick up with verse 25. If you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be like a moneylender to him. You can be a banker, you can charge interest rates, but if a person is poor and they can't afford it, then you cannot. And you shall not exact interest from him. If ever you take your neighbor's cloak in pledge, see, you couldn't charge interest, but you could hold a collateral. And even the poorest person at least had a coat. So you might take their coat as collateral, but even then, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down. For that is his only covering, and it is his cloak for his body. In what else shall he sleep? And if he cries to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Do you hear in God's voice, in his tone, the guiding principle for the law is you must be compassionate. This kind of spills into our responsibility to exhibit and show personal holiness. Verses 28 to 31 deal with that. You shall not revile God, nor curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest and from the outflow of your presses. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. We've talked about the fact that the firstborn of every Israelite family belongs to God, only to be redeemed or purchased back. Verse 30 and 31. You shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. You shall be consecrated to me. Therefore you shall not eat any flesh that is torn by beasts in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. That last verse is very revealing because What God is saying is, you are humans, you are my children, you are not animals, and you do not eat like animals. If something's been torn by beasts, give it to the dogs, but you are to live a sanctified life. With that, we close, and with a word of prayer, I bid you farewell. Heavenly Father, teach us to rule and mark our daily lives by the rule of compassion. Help us always to seek what is right for others and to help and defend them, even as we know you are compassionate and a defender for us. Amen. See you next time.